Jessica, Talib, and I grabbed hands and ran. Officers swooped in on us from all directions and locked us down. The threats, their eyes, postures, weaponry said it all. We have the power. We don't care how many cameras are there. We can do what we want. We will never be held accountable. I held deVon as I heard the young white sister next to me crying as her head was bloodied. I held deVon, one of the young brothers there with us who struggled to control his breathing. He said, "I'm choking, I'm choking." The cop told him, "Stop, we will shoot. Get on the ground, we will shoot you all." I told deVon, "Baby, please try not to move. Just lay still, I got you, I got you." The gun was at his chest. I looked at that cop and said, "Please, he's not doing anything." I tried to record the incident, but the cop had his finger on the trigger. I could feel Talib's hand on my back, Jessica behind me. We were all trembling. We laid there until one black police officer said, "Let them go. We got who we wanted." In all my life, I have never been so terrified. deVon later said to me, thank you you guys. I think you all saved my life." This is simply one account of a small group of us who were down there to witness the resistance of Ferguson, a resistance that began when Michael Brown was shot, executed. Those young people of color with us last night may have not known where they stood in July, but by mid-August, because of Ferguson and resistance, they are clear. At that night, they were deflated but not defeated. They were longing for direction and leadership that is not coming from an older generation. They are acquiring and taking knowledge in this moment. They are fully awake. I cannot blame some of them and their pessimism. In the midst of last night's unrest, once we got to the hotel, all we could see was Captain Ron Johnson on the TV saying it was the least violent night in Ferguson. And all I could remember was deVon saying, "We'll be back here tomorrow, because if we're not, they're going to keep killing us." This might not be the most eloquent 500-word essay, but at the moment I saw that rifle pointed at deVon, and I felt the energy of all of us. The fear is something that you can't even comprehend. Then I realized that unfortunately, most black and brown people and young people comprehend this on a daily basis in our communities while being terrorized on a daily basis by the police. All I could think about was my daughter hugging me saying, "Be careful, Mommy. The police also kill women too." That split second you think your life is over, M16s pointed at you and younger people with you, is the most harrowing thing I've ever experienced and many of us have experienced. What is going down here in Ferguson in all my years of organizing I have never seen. This is a war zone, a military occupation. Our children are the cannon fodder, but our children are resisting the most militarized police state in the world. deVon and his boys and me and Talib and Jessica got to go home tonight. We got to go home tonight. Michael Brown did not get to go home. We were not meant to survive. We were not meant to survive slavery, the Middle Passage, colonialism, imperialism, genocide, apartheid, Jim Crow, Juanita Crow, sexual assault. We were not meant to survive. Our elders were not meant to survive the CIA and the FBI destroying every resistance movement in this country. We were not meant to survive 3 generations of mass incarceration. We are not meant to survive deportations. We are not meant to survive sweeping anti-immigration, which is really anti-brown, anti-black legislation in this country. But we're here. And the system of white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism does not know what to do with us. So they enslave us, imprison us, restrict our movements, impose racial surveillance, institutionalize racism, gentrify our communities, destroy public education, destroy black politics and politics of liberation. White supremacy invades sexuality and gender, economics and entertainment. And when we still survive, and that fails to stop us, they kill us. They kill Ayanna Jones and Tamir Rice and Michael Brown and Andy Lopez and Rakir Boyd. And if any young person dares become an activist and a radical, then they make us political prisoners, like Oscar Lopez Rivera and Leonard Peltier, Jalil Muntekin, Russell Maroon Schultz, David Gilbert, Mumia Abu-Jamal, right? Or they choke us to death, either literally or through economic injustice. And when that fails to stop us, they build walls to keep us out of our original land and the lands that we built that belong essentially to Native people in this country. And when there's a response like Black Lives Matter, they use a reactionary moment in Paris, France, to make clear by marching, all those white supremacists, war mistresses, and warmongers marching, to make it clear that if you think Black Lives Matter, we're here to show you globally Black lives don't matter. That march in Paris, France, people want to know how that's connected? That was a response to us claiming at this moment that Black Lives Matter. That march was them trying to show to us that Black lives don't matter. That's them trying to tell us that Michael Brown was a thug. That's them trying to tell us that Jessie Hernandez, who was shot 2 weeks ago, as she described herself, a lesbian dyke, Mexicana young sister, shot 18 times when that autopsy comes out in a couple of weeks. And they threw her body, and instead of giving her CPR, they let her bleed out. Why? Because she was in a stolen car. Last week in Pasco, Washington, 35-year-old Antonio Montes, what were his last words? No despera, don't shoot me. Shoot me in the leg with his hands up. That march was showing us, them trying to show us that Black Lives Matter. And they're trying to say whether they're Black lives in Ferguson, or Black lives in Brazil, Black lives in Nigeria, Black in Puerto Rico, Black in France, Black in Australia, Black in Palestine, Black in Mexico. As we are crying and fighting for Black lives, they're not only telling us that you don't matter, they're using everything in their disposal, including the state and the military apparatus, to silence you. And if they don't do that, they torture us. And if they don't do that, then they're going to drone our lands, our families, our celebrations. The killing of young Black and Latino men and women is nothing new. Hassan Salam says racism has stayed right on track and none of it changes because the president is Black. But see, what the president and many people who have sold out young people don't understand was Ferguson was the sets. It was the young people, the homeless people, the queer young people, the women taking leadership and resisting. So where do we go from here, as Dr. King said, in the last years of his life? What will be our sacrifice so that we don't ever have to hear someone say, don't shoot? What is our movement? This movement of Black Lives Matter is so incredible because it's not a civil rights movement. It's not asking for reform. It's not asking for people to say, you are human. It is taking our humanity. It's taking it locally and globally. It's unapologetic. If we want justice for all the victims, we must be willing to fight for it. And the future of this fight may require radical militancy we have not seen, and we don't even know what it looks like, but we know that it's necessary. But we must not let fear of what we don't know outstrip what we do know. That a new generation of unapologetic, unrespectable, in-your-face, telling the system it is guilty, since August, almost 190 days, stood up to the strongest military in the world, the United States military. I know it's hard to hear for many young brothers and sisters, and for us to accept that we may be living in America, but we are not regarded and never have been as Americans. We have maybe attained citizenship through a paper, but not a policy. So as we, black and brown folks, black folks, African descendants, as we become the majority, we're already the majority in the world, but as we become the majority in the United States, excuse me, we have a struggle ahead of us. The system is clearly showing us that it will take our youngest and what could be potentially our brightest. Frantz Fanon said, "First we recognize, then we resist, then we rebel. Black Lives Matter is the rebellion." I'm sorry, excuse me. Black Lives Matter is not a hashtag, it's not a selfie, it's not a tweet, it's not a hoodie, it's not a trend, it's not a job, it's not a grant, it's not sitting in the White House, it's not getting a BET award. Black Lives Matter is our lives. It's not a magazine cover, although those are nice. It's our lives. As W.E.B. Du Bois taught us, we need to strike a hammer to the system every day. It's the least we do for the freedom we enjoy. We only enjoy it because of the sacrifices of our ancestors, our elders, our freedom fighters, our war veterans, the veterans we call our OGs, the ones that survived the assault known as COINTELPRO. So Black Lives Matter, Jesse Hernandez, and Black Lives Matter, Andy Lopez, and Black Lives Matter, Alex Nieto, and Black Lives Matter, Anthony Montes, and Black Lives Matter, Michael Brown. We are unapologetic, unafraid, as Shirley taught us, unbossed and unbought. We will not bend, we will not be passive, we will not compromise. Black Lives Matter as long as we don't have justice, and once we get justice, Black Lives Matter even more.